Week 2 in the Big Brother 27 house has had plenty of drama, and I don't know about you guys, but most of it seems pretty irrelevant to what happened tonight. Let's get into it. Let's break it down, and let's try and figure out what the heck actually happened tonight. Keanu trying to take a nap during the nomination ceremony, Jimmy, and all of week 2, and everyone trying to understand who that extra vote was for Zay. The most interesting part of this week was the showdown between Jimmy and Keanu, or should I say part 2 of the showdown between Jimmy and Keanu, because this is the second ceremony / meeting that we have had interrupted by these two's feud in this game. We get to have Jimmy go through his whole spiel, his whole HOH veto draw spiel, and then Keanu chimes in trying to shake all of the rules of the veto draw up. And then after he announces his new power, it kind of sounded like half of what he said wasn't exactly the way his power worked. Then we find out that not only does Keanu have, but then we find out, despite the fact that Keanu doesn't necessarily know exactly how his power works while he's announcing it to the rest of the house guests, we have an exciting, we find out who his power is bringing into the game. And it is none other than BB20 winner, Comp Beast, Casey Clark. And long story short, Casey wins a veto for Keanu. Surprise, surprise. But that honestly was not even the highlight of the veto meeting. It was after Jimmy nominates Amy in Keanu's place. We then find out that Kelly has this secret extra veto that she gets to play a competition for, which we already knew that she had this competition to play for. But she's revealing it to the house, and then she goes up to play this competition, wins it in a landslide against herself, because what else is she going to do? She goes down and has her own extra veto ceremony, which this is a prime example of Big Brother trying to flaunt their tail feathers, saying, hey, we really needed this extra 30 minutes for this Wednesday episode. We really needed it. I said this way before Big Brother 27. I said it way before they announced that Wednesday night episodes were going to be an hour and a half. Years ago, Survivor started introducing the hour and a half episodes compared to their standard hour-long episodes. And it was monumental in the way they were able to start adapting their storytelling throughout their episodes, the way they were able to start explaining in greater detail the strategy of who was going home and why. And whenever they introduced on Big Brother that they were going to start extending the episode, even on Wednesday, I was really excited because that shows a little bit of forward momentum. But that's not where they need that extra half hour. In fact, I would say it's more beneficial to have 2 half-hour episodes and then a 2-hour eviction episode to really understand what we're getting when it comes to eviction night. When it comes to when these meetings, when these ceremonies, when these competitions are actually taking place, they are far, far in advance from when the Thursday night episode actually takes place, which is why people like myself were very happy when the AI arena were introduced and then followed up by the Battle of the Block, because even though most of us that are watching the feeds and paying attention to what's going on as it's happening in the house start to get bored after Monday or Tuesday when the house consensus has already been met, this really allows that extra wiggle room for there to be discussion, there to be debate, there to be contemplation on what do we do if this happens, because you don't really know exactly what's going to happen until it happens. I mean, just like most competitions, we can guess the outcome of the competition just looking at what the competition is, right? But these Battle of the Block competitions, not only have they tended to be a little bit more crapshooty than most competitions in Big Brother, but they're also still pretty new. And when you only have 3 people competing in a single competition, when one person might normally have a larger hand up, that hand up's going to go down when you only have 3 compared to 6, or compared to having an entire HOH competition. They have got to get a handle on the strategy between the end of the Battle of the Block, not the Battle of the Block, not the Battle of the Block, the BB Blockbuster. I love the name. So retro. Hits my feels, you know. But they have got to get a slightly better handle on what they're allowing for strategy and dialogue between house guests during that break between the end of, or the reveal of the winner of the Blockbuster, and then whenever the actual nomination or eviction votes take place. Because normally what we were used to last season was, for the most part, after each AI Arena competition was over, there was a good amount of time for the house guests to discuss strategy, right? And we're saying a good amount of time based on double eviction night strategy timeframes. I mean, we've been very generous in the Blockbuster era, where they've been given a little bit more wiggle room to kind of discuss versus how they've been on double eviction night. But tonight was a lot of the opposite. Most of the time it feels like Julie should be wrapping them up by then to reel them in, whereas tonight it didn't feel like she was able to give them a lot of time to discuss what they wanted to do. A lot of that, I'm sure, has to do with the fact that the house already knew who they were voting out at that point. But even then, this is the part of production that I expect them to keep consistent, and they never do, instead of trying to put on this big show and keep that part of it consistent and always leaving the fans hanging. Because this is an example of, we want them to have enough time in principle to decide what they want. And yes, they might have already decided it days ago. But if someone won that competition, if Will won that competition, if Amy won that competition, there was no telling who was going home tonight. And the way the programming was set up for tonight's episode, there was not enough room for them to have discussed in sufficient enough detail who they wanted to go home tonight. So we've got to get a handle on that. And I'm not complaining. I very, very much am enjoying the Blockbuster. I really enjoyed it last season. Like you guys have heard, I'm a big fan of it, and I'm happy that they have it, so I'm not trying to nitpick too much. But moving forward, we really got to nail this down, because if we don't, it's going to have a much bigger impact on week-to-week strategy when the house guests don't know who the 2 final nominees they're going to be voting for are, and we're not giving them any in real-time time to figure out who that general consensus is going to be if they're trying to figure that out. So, again, a minor nitpick, but it is something that can grow much bigger moving forward if they don't recognize the difficulties they had with it in tonight's eviction episode. All right, guys, beyond that, the last thing I want to talk about is Rachel's position in the house right now. And I'm not giving her special treatment because she's a returning player. I'm just very intrigued by her trajectory. The last time we've seen something as close to this was Paul entering BB19. I mean, just off the top of my dome. And he got all the way to the final 2. I'll be honest, in my opinion, I didn't appreciate the way he got there, but I do think he was the one that should have won in that dynamic. And I'm very curious to see the longevity Rachel has in this season. We're still very, very early. This is the point where it's kind of hard to imagine in about 4, 5, 6 weeks from now, we're going to completely forget who Amy and Zay both were. Not entirely, but it's going to be, they're both going to be a little bit of an afterthought compared to the active in-game we're focused on at that point in time. So I am very curious on how Rachel's going to move forward, because she's going to have to really restructure her position. She's done a great job coming as this individual singular returning player, but it's going to be some work for her to better reposition herself moving forward. We have seen on the feeds this week her trying to talk with Ava. There was a little bit of speculation maybe she was trying to solidify a final 2 with Ava. Time will tell. We'll see, especially on Sunday's episode, if that was really something she tried to work on. I'm definitely expecting, if that was what we thought it was, that's probably something we will get a little bit more information on. But until then, it's going to be really interesting to see how she's able to readapt and how the house shakes up moving forward. I'm really excited to see who wins this HOH tonight. Let me know down in the comments, who do you want to win HOH for week 3? There's a lot of interesting choices out there, and everyone's expecting it to be the wall comp. They're all idiots. We got at least 2 more weeks, if not 4 more weeks, before the wall comp hits, and it's going to be really entertaining watching them all just sit around, sitting on their hands, waiting for that to come around, while the other players are actually putting effort into the competitions that they're playing in that moment. So I'm excited to see what happens. Again, let me know who you guys want to see win HOH. Who do you want to see as the next 3 nominees on the block? And until next time, guys, I've been Dak, and this is my chat.